Well, good Friday morning, friends. It's finally frickin' Friday. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope you're ready for the weekend. It's going to be a busy one for me. Today is a huge day at the Red Brick House because we've got not one, not two, but three different inspections that we need the inspector's blessing. We really do. If the plumbing goes okay, the electrical roughing goes okay, and the framing goes okay, then we can insulate the old part or the second younger or the younger part of the house, and then Monday get another inspection. In which case, then the drywall can be hung in that section of the house, which will be great because we'll get that drywall hung while I'm gone to the draft. And a week from today, right now, we'll be talking here, drinking some coffee with my man Game Time, Prime Time, DMV, David Wiley, and I guess Randy Seitz too, talking about who the Dallas Cowboys drafted in the first round or if they traded back the extra picks that they would have today. Are you ready? Seriously, are you ready? I'm ready. I am so ready. I'm going to get my work done between now and then, and we're going to go ahead and enjoy. But prior to that, of course, yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. The Dallas Cowboys ended up exercising the fifth-year option on CeeDee Lamb. Okay, so that is a guaranteed $17.99 million. But they're working on a long term deal. They're hoping to have that actually in place probably next week after the draft. They're also working, interestingly enough, on Diggs contracts, Trevon Diggs. He, of course, because he, of course, excuse me, my tongue is twisting this morning, does not have the fifth-year option because he was a second-round draft pick. However, this is the last year of his deal, and you want to get that thing done. And the Cowboys are trying to keep their wide receivers happy as well as their cornerbacks. That's not the case everywhere because, there's an article this morning why the Cowboys should trade for DeAndre Hopkins, which I'm all in on. If we could get Hopkins for a fourth or fifth round pick, I would love to do that's just me because he's definitely disgruntled, even though Arizona's coming up with new uniforms for next year. Everybody seems to want to get away from Arizona. Stefon Diggs. Here's another interesting one. Von Miller kind of put Stefon Diggs on blast because Stefon has not shown up for optional, optional OTAs, voluntary workouts. We don't have that problem in Dallas. The Cowboys are very fortunate because pretty much all the Cowboy players live in Dallas. And they're gym rats. They're guys that love to hang out, work out. They're working out at Dak's house and everything else. That they just can't wait to get together and have that camaraderie as a team. So we don't have that issue. Other places, it may not be a place that a player wants to live year round. Back in the day, probably the players did. But now, it's so easy to be, living in Miami or living in Arizona and stuff in the off season or living in California and just during the season go there and set up shop and when it's done get out of the cold in Green Bay. So the Cowboys don't have that problem that other teams have where guys don't really want to come back just to work out for a few weeks and stuff and then go back. Some guys, of course, have to get paid incentives. Cowboys don't have workout incentives because they don't need to have those. So that's where we are with that. Interesting article in Bleacher Report this morning, which was ranking off-season moves for the teams. They ended up ranking the Dallas Cowboys at a B minus for what they did. Now let's go ahead and read the article real quick. Key losses: tight end Dalton Schultz, which was I'm still going to go on board and say that was sad at the autograph signing show. There was nobody in Dalton Schultz's line. I mean, here's the thing you have to understand about the autograph signing shows in Chantilly. Saturday is Cowboy Saturday. They know this. You end up seeing more Dallas Cowboy players at the autograph signing show than any other team. Now you get a Tariq Hill, but you're not getting the whole Miami Dolphins team. But I mean, when you get Micah Parsons, you get Diggs, you get Tony Dorsett, you get, Bob Lilly, you get Michael Irvin, you got tons, and Dalton Schultz, you got tons of Dallas Cowboy fans that are literally there. And Cowboy fans were like, meh, with Dalton Schultz. But be that as it may, I wish him the best of luck with the Texans and hope he gets that big contract that he's looking for. Key losses: Dalton Schultz, Zeke Elliott, who they might say could be the return of the Mac. Yeah, I mean, Dak would like to have him back. He is not latched on to another team yet. The market that people thought might be there is not really there. Not there for running backs whatsoever. Guard Connor McGovern, and Connor McGovern did start for us like 14, 15 games last year, but I'm not going to say that it was great. The governor was okay. And of course, we lost Noah Brown, aka Clifford Franklin. So, Dallas Cowboys' biggest free agent focus has been re signing their own. They deserve credit for retaining players like Tony Pollard on the franchise tag, backup quarterback Cooper Rush, linebacker Leighton Vander Esch, cornerback CJ Godwin, safety Donovan Wilson, and pass rusher Dante Fowler, which guys that were all key to last year. And that's where you look at some of the guys and say, well, Connor McGovern was okay, but we need an upgrade. You look at Dalton Schultz and say, yeah, he gets quite a few catches, but we could use somebody who becomes more of a security blanket, and we have the younger guys behind him. And Noah Brown really was a fourth or fifth option, or should have been, unfortunately, because of where we were with Michael Gallup, as well as not having anybody else. He was forced in the role of being basically the number 2 wide receiver, and that really isn't him. Additionally, they restructured the contract of Tyron Smith in order to keep him. Dallas made valuable trades for wideout Brandon Cooks and cornerback Stephon Gilmore. Cooks was acquired for a 5th-round pick and a 2024 6th-rounder. Cowboys also convinced the Houston Texans to take $6 million of his salary. That was actually huge because you not only got him for cheap compensation, you got them to help pay for it. Gilmore was acquired for a 5th-round pick in 23. He and Cooks will likely replace Anthony Brown, with Anthony Brown and Noah Brown. So we're replacing Brown and Brown. Dallas now has clear needs for the 23 draft. It is to find a complementary back to help replace Zeke Elliott and starting caliber tight end Dalton Schultz. And of course, we have to replace Connor McGovern. So they're giving us a B- for that. Okay, well, that's cool. We'll see how it pans out. I still believe there's other work that you're going to be doing. There's going to be another wave of free agency, which is usually more of the bargain basement time after the draft. As teams draft young guys, they say, okay, well, we drafted this guy, he's going to be able to replace this expensive veteran. So, and the Cowboys typically also like to sign players and do contract extensions during training camp. So, this cake is not baked yet. They still got work to do. Now, an interesting dynamic. Back to Stefon Diggs not showing up. We believe that after the blow up on the sidelines with Josh Allen and some of the cryptic tweets that Stefon has put out this offseason, he's not real happy right now still in Buffalo. Now, we do know that his brother, Trevon, who's getting his deal worked out, is very happy in Dallas. We know Stefon and Trevon talk about wanting to play together. Trevon's got his new deal going in place where he's happy. Stefon's a couple years in on his deal and is not happy. Could we see a reunion of the family? I kind of said before at the beginning of the offseason, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm at least making a few phone calls. And I could also say, hey, look, Trevon, we're trying to get your brother. Wouldn't you guys like to work together? Help a brother out with the contract a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because we need a little something to try and get your brother. That's the way you work the system. Don't know if that's happened, but with him not showing up for OTAs and the way he's put Josh Allen on blast, I'm just saying. Worst thing can happen is they say no, but they might say yes. And finally, on the contract situation, the Giants are having a little bit of one right now. Now they got Daniel Jones under contract because they believe he's the guy. Exact same number as Dak Prescott, $40 million. But you have now the issue of paying other people and the lack of desire to pay a running back. And we heard that Barkley had turned down $12 million a year, and is now playing on the franchise tag at 10, and says, "I will not play on the franchise tag." This is a little piece from Rich Eisen's show about the locker room might be divided because of Daniel Jones's contract.
I'm mistaken. The Giants ended up having, I believe it was Will Levis and Hendon Hooker in. They've had quarterbacks in.
They have, which makes after the contract they gave out
to Daniel Jones.
Jones.
Well, I'll never forget the day after he was drafted. It was in Nashville. You were kind enough to come on this show.
Yeah.
And you said that it was a huge reach and it would set the Giants franchise back significantly. And you were right till Brian Daboll showed up. I mean, you'd have to say that.
Yeah.
You can't sit here and say that the Jones pick was working out until they just decided to finally hire the right guy who could figure out his Rubik's Cube, if you don't mind.
There you go. I love
bring
it.
It all full circle.
I love it. Bring it full circle.
So, what'd you think of the Jones contract, Joel?
I didn't love
it.
Double down.
I
didn't love it. I don't know.
Keep going.
Why is it like I want the Giants? I want to be like, hey, the Giants did a great job.
It's not personal.
I don't love the contract. I don't think that the players in that locker room look at Daniel Jones and be like, yep, that's the guy who needs to get that type of money. I think it was too high. Did they have to pay him that? Maybe. Why is Saquon taking the position that he's taking? Because he's more important to them. In some regard, I know quarterbacks are generally more important, but I think that there are a lot of Daniel Joneses in the NFL, and there's not a lot of Saquon Barkleys. And I think in a locker room, you can't fake it. Everybody knows acutely who's the most important, who's the one carrying the team. Who are the alphas, and if the contracts don't align like that, there can be issues in the locker room. I hope that that's not the case with the Giants. I don't sense that that's going to all of a sudden turn into. I mean, I know Joe Burrow's going to get more than that, but he got a lot. That contract was not small.
No, it's $40 million a year, and obviously you saw what Hurts just got, $51 million a year. It's slotted, one would think, but it's still way up there. And the fact that
maybe we won't think that this is as high as it is right now when we get the Burrow deal, and like we start getting these other deals out there.
Right. Catch the Rich Eisen.
Interesting. Maybe we won't. Probably we won't, because we know that Dak's going to get an extension, and of course we'll have Cowboy fans going off a cliff here, saying he's overpaid, he's a bum, get rid of him, this, that, and the other. But the reality is there's very few, and I don't know how many. What is there, like 6 billion people in the world? There's only 32 NFL starting quarterbacks, and you look at it and say there's about 10 good ones. It's not very many people in the world that can do what those guys do. All right, it's time for me to get ready to get over to the Red Brick House, and hopefully we're going to get some inspections passed today. I'm Mark Holmes, and I'll see you soon.